2 years have passed since everything turned upside down what was meant to be a simple beach day with my son. Leo took an unexpected turn. Ethan, my husband, couldn't join us due to work commitments, a reality I had grown accustomed to, yet that day felt different even now as the sun warmed our skin. We spread out the towels. Perhaps it was a bit too hot that day. I finally settled down, cherishing a rare moment of peace amidst the chaos, and asked Leo to help me apply sunscreen on my back. It was a thought that barely crossed my mind. My child. How could I allow this to unfold initially? It appeared he was merely assisting me, yet I soon realized his hands were wandering, descending further and further. I didn't intervene. Why didn't I? You believe you understand yourself and your family, but occasionally a single moment can alter everything. For me, that moment occurred at the beach that day, and I have not felt the same since I had been married to Ethan for more than 15 years. Those who knew us would have described us as a perfect pair. Lovely home, amazing children, everything in place. One often remains oblivious to the problems until they find themselves immersed in the situation. Experiencing emptiness is a sensation that can only be truly grasped. Through personal experience, Ethan dedicated himself entirely to his work weekends. Late nights and even holidays were no exception. He accomplished it for our sake. I repeatedly reassured myself that his dedication would improve our family's future. But eventually, that mindset began to lose its significance. What is the purpose of a house if it remains unoccupied? He was no longer able to see me. He hardly glanced in my direction upon arriving home. He ceased to inquire about my well-being or any needs I might have had. Our discussions were brief, merely touching on topics such as Bill's food or the children. He had a deep affection for Leo and Lily, Leo's younger sister, but he felt more like a specter. He was present, yet somehow absent. I would find myself seated opposite him at the table, questioning whether he even noticed my presence any longer. That morning is etched in my memory. Ethan sprinted through the door as I was busy in the kitchen. He took hold of his suitcase, pressed a kiss on Lily's head, and offered me a brief glance. Reveals my regret, Freya, but I can't make it today, he mentioned. Something unexpected arose at work. I chose not to argue, merely nodded and suppressed the lump in my throat, as is my habit. I reassured myself it was all right. Leo and I could manage on our own at 16. He stood tall and lean, his father's brown eyes framed by a gentler visage. When I noted it would be just the two of us, he offered little in response, only a shrug before grabbing the bags and trailing me to the car. He settled into the passenger seat, immersed in the music. I gazed out the window, as many teenagers often do, and found myself smiling as I watched him. He transformed so rapidly that I frequently wondered if a mere blink would cause me to lose him as well. While I drove to the beach, my thoughts repeatedly wandered back to Ethan. Just as they usually did, I recalled all the enjoyable moments we shared. Movie nights leisurely, strolls, and those impromptu adventures just for fun. I contemplated the way he would caress me and how his gaze would brighten upon seeing me. Years had passed since I experienced that feeling. At this point, I found myself devoid of feelings. Fatigue had taken over. Leo assisted me in transporting our belongings to a serene location by the water, where he arranged the umbrella. As I spread out the towels, I sensed a desire to engage with him, perhaps due to his presence being the only one available, or perhaps I simply craved an ear to hear me out. Isn't it wonderful to be outdoors? I attempted to infuse my words with cheerfulness, and he swept his hair back, nodding in agreement. Yeah, Mom, it's nice. As I settled onto the towel, the sun's warmth enveloped my skin, allowing me a moment to unwind. I sought a moment of tranquility, hoping to momentarily escape the burdens of the past few years. Then it dawned on me that I had forgotten the sunscreen. I rose and approached Leo, saying, "Could you assist me in placing this on my back? I can't quite reach it." He paused for a moment, then took the bottle from my hands. I reclined on the towel and waited. He was truly gentle. When he began, as if he feared causing me any harm, which made me chuckle because it brought back memories of when he would hold my hand with his small fingers during his childhood. "I might be able to cross the street," I said to him. "You can press a little harder." I said gently. It was fine. However, he started applying oil to my shoulders and back, and his confidence appeared to grow with each movement. The gentle warmth and soothing rhythm of his hands urged me to close my eyes and savor the moment. For a while it felt like an eternity since anyone had laid a hand on me, and that realization struck me more profoundly than it perhaps ought to have. His hands began to glide softly down my back, causing me to gasp for air and open my eyes wide. I had so much to express, yet the words eluded me, leaving me in silence. I remained silent, attempting to reassure myself that all was well, that his actions were merely those of a helpful nature, and that I was simply overthinking it. Deep within, I understood that this was not the case once he set the towel aside. His hands lingered at the edge, and I felt the weight of our uncertainties. Suspended in the atmosphere rather than halting him, I found myself uttering words I wished I could take back. "It's fine, you can touch that." The moment I uttered those words, a wave of realization washed over me, highlighting the inherent risk, and I understood that no one else was venturing into this territory. He remained silent while Leo continued on. I closed my eyes firmly and sensed his hands in areas they had no right to be. I wondered if he could sense the rapid beating of my heart. I felt prepared to rise and demand that he stop, yet I found myself unable to do so. I didn't do anything at all. I still don't quite understand why. Perhaps it was the sensation of profound solitude, or the desire for recognition. Despite knowing it was misguided, perhaps I simply lost interest that day at the beach. A part of me shattered, and nothing has felt the same since it has remained consistent. So I appreciate your continued support. Throughout this time, I understand this is difficult to accept, and I truly value your perseverance through it all. If this story resonates with you, or you believe someone in your circle could connect with it, kindly consider liking and subscribing. It allows me to convey more narratives of this nature and brings a sense of companionship. Let's continue onward. Everything shifted after that day. The way Leo regarded me, the events that unfolded, and the emotions I experienced were all aspects beyond my control. It wasn't merely a fleeting moment or something insignificant. It persisted each time I gazed into his eyes. I was unable to comprehend the reason behind his appearance yet. I found myself unable to avert my gaze when we arrived home that night. It felt as if nothing had occurred at all. I completed the necessary tasks, prepared dinner, inquired with Leo about school, and organized the laundry, yet in the stillness of the night, as my mind replayed the events of that afternoon, my hands trembled uncontrollably. It centered on his hands, the way he lingered, and the palpable tension in the air. The thoughts of him lingered in my mind, refusing to fade away. I regretted my actions, and disliked that he caused me to feel that way regarding my son. Ethan, I didn't see anything unusual. He consistently returned home late, appearing exhausted with his tire skew. He pressed his lips to my cheek as he always had, leaving behind a faint reminder of the affection that once flourished. "Had a long day?" I inquired, attempting to initiate a dialogue. He merely grunted and nodded before making his way to the living room. As he typically did, his presence left me feeling like an afterthought, as if I wasn't truly acknowledged at all that night. Ethan was snoring beside me as I lay in bed, gazing at the ceiling despite the cacophony filling the house. I couldn't quiet my thoughts. They were consumed by Leo. His hands, his eyes, all the moments we shared. I realized I needed to stop it before it got out of hand, as I understood it was fundamentally wrong. Yet there existed a shadowy, more isolated aspect of my being that held on tightly, yearning for his touch, the focus, and simply the sensation of being acknowledged. As the days went by, Leo remained silent, yet his quietude conveyed so much more than words ever could. Rather than maintaining a distance, he remained nearby, observing me as I cooked, cleaned, or simply sat alone last night. I allowed events to progress naturally without intervening. For either him or myself, the following weekend was scorching, and the house seemed on the verge of igniting. He was at it once more, tackling yet another last-minute shift. It was simply Leo and me. I inquired whether he was okay with going back to the beach by himself. I'm not entirely sure why I brought it up. Perhaps I believed that being outdoors might help to clear my mind, perhaps. I was curious to discover just how effectively I could block everything out. The drive was marked by a notable silence. Leo seemed disengaged this time around. He continued to gaze out the window, his knee bouncing restlessly. I felt the urge to express myself. Anything at all, but the words eluded me, no matter how desperately I attempted to find them. Upon our arrival, the beach lay almost deserted, the water shimmering in a stunning hue of blue, while the gentle breeze caressed my face pleasantly. We laid out the towels, and Leo assisted us in getting everything ready. I found it difficult to request that he apply sunscreen this time. I closed my eyes and reclined, finding that all was well. Yet I could still sense his gaze upon me. He noticed me absolutely. Here is the translation. That afternoon, the atmosphere shifted. We opted for the beach showers to wash off the sand before our departure. What was meant to be a swift rinse turned into an unexpected moment that still puzzles me. Leo was the first to step under the cascading water, letting it flow down his back. I lingered for a moment, observing him before finally joining in. For reasons I can't quite explain, I shed my clothes and stood beside him in the refreshing water, allowing it to envelop me. Leo turned his gaze towards me. I found myself taken by surprise. Deciphering his expression proved to be quite challenging. Was it astonishment, skepticism, or perhaps something different? He remained silent. After locking eyes with him for a moment, I said, "You should take off your shorts, too. You need to rinse properly." I'm not sure why I said that. Perhaps I was attempting to assert my dominance or simply exploring the boundaries. He paused for a moment, but ultimately relented and removed his shorts. There we stood. Just the two of us. The rain fell softly, and I asked, "Could you assist me with my bag?" I turned away from him, and once again his touch was tender. The air was thick with unspoken tension between us. I became still as his hands found their way to my waist. The air was thick with tension, and the rain's relentless patter muffled all other sounds. I could have turned away. I had the option to walk away, but instead, I leaned into him, took his hands and brought them up to my chest. He offered no resistance, and what unfolded next is difficult to articulate, to be honest. I had no intention of following through with it. Everything felt chaotic, a blend of need, loneliness, and an elusive sensation. I can't quite identify. It lacked gentleness and slowness. It was fierce, despairing, and utterly askew. I wished to halt, yet I found myself unable to, and a part of me was reluctant to let go. Once it was over, we remained in the rain, allowing it to cleanse everything visible, yet the truth lingered on. He embraced me and kept me close in a way that I hadn't experienced in years, and I allowed it to happen. Following that moment, we remained silent, simply making our way back without uttering a single word. We hopped into the car, dried ourselves off, packed everything up, and set off from the periphery of my vision. I caught sight of Leo. His lips were crimson, and he was behaving quite rigidly. I realized I had truly complicated matters, and I was convinced we had crossed a boundary that could never be undone. But truly, after so many years, I experienced a sense of being truly alive. The journey back was rather quiet, and the atmosphere in the car felt tight and oppressive, as if the very air was weighing us down. I focused intently on the road ahead, gripping the wheel firmly. My thoughts were in a constant whirlwind. I could still sense him, the heaviness of the recent events, his touch, his presence lingering. My gaze was fixed on him in the passenger seat. He simply sat there, lost in thought, as he stared out the window, his face flushed and his lips pressed together, unmistakably distressed. Suddenly, he broke the silence. "Mom?" he murmured gently. I averted my gaze, fear gripping me too tightly to face him, yet I could hear him perfectly well. What happened back there? My heart began to race. I briefly considered ignoring him and steering the conversation in a different direction. I attempted to dismiss it, yet feigning indifference proved futile. Not after everything we had experienced. After pausing for a moment, I confessed, "I don't know." And truthfully, that was as near to the reality as I could express. I truly struggled to understand what had transpired or why everything seemed so altered. Now the stillness lingered thickly even after we arrived in the driveway. The engine cut out, yet we remained still frozen in place. Leo's gaze was fixed on me, and an unsettling intensity in his eyes sent a shiver through me. It wasn't about shame or guilt or anything of that nature. It was pure desire. "How much time had passed your feelings?" Those words sent a chill down my spine as he posed the very question I had been contemplating the moment our eyes met. Ignited a spark within me. I'm uncertain, yet I found myself speaking softly, perhaps a tad longer than I intended. We simply lingered. In the shadows, the unspoken thoughts weighing down the atmosphere. I thought that was the end. We would head indoors, let it slip away, and act as if it had never occurred. Yet Leo had different intentions. He pressed his lips against mine before I could even unlock my door. Initially, it had an unsteady quality, moving at a sluggish pace, as if he were, I feared I might retreat. Yet I held my ground. I allowed him to kiss me, and he reciprocated the kiss. In that instant, I completely unraveled. It was a choice between the solitude of years without care, or the way Leo gazed at me, a look I hadn't experienced in ages. I didn't resist. He drew me nearer, right there outside our home, his hands gliding over me as if it were second